There is a rule buried in the Canadian tax code that affects nearly every retiree in this country, and most people don't find out about it until it's already too late to plan around it properly. By the end of the year you turn 71, the government will force you to start withdrawing money from your RRSP. Not a suggestion, a mandatory minimum set by a formula that increases every single year for the rest of your life, regardless of market conditions, regardless of your actual financial needs, regardless of what it does to your tax bracket or your old age security. In my years advising retirees, I have seen this catch people who did everything right. People who contributed faithfully for decades, who built 6- and 7-figure RRSPs, who genuinely believed they were setting themselves up for a comfortable retirement. And then the withdrawals start. The tax bill arrives, and the OAS clawback kicks in, and suddenly the math doesn't add up the way they thought it would. In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly how this mechanism works, why it quietly costs retirees more than it should, and the specific strategy involving your TFSA that can change the outcome entirely if you act on it before age 71, not after. Let's get into the details. If you've spent the last 30 years dutifully maxing out your RRSP every single year, congratulations, you've done exactly what every bank, every financial advisor, and every government pamphlet told you to do, and that's precisely the problem. I've sat across the table from hundreds of retirees over the years, and there's a moment that happens almost every single time. It's usually around age 71, sometimes a little earlier if they retired young. They open up their first RRIF withdrawal notice, where they get their tax return back and their face changes, because the number doesn't match what they expected. Not even close. Here's what nobody tells you when you're 35 and contributing to your RRSP. That account was never really your money in the way you thought it was. It was a tax deferral, a loan from your future self, with the government as a silent partner who gets to decide, decades later, how big their cut is going to be. Let me walk you through how this trap actually works, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. When you contribute to an RSP at age 35, you're in your peak earning years. Maybe you're making $90,000, $100,000, $120,000 a year. Every dollar you put into that RSP gets deducted at your marginal tax rate, which at that income level could be 35, 40, even 45% depending on your province. So the government essentially gives you a deal. Put your money away, don't touch it, and we'll let you skip the tax today. Sounds great, right? And for decades, it is great. Your money grows tax-free inside that account. No capital gains tax, no dividend tax, nothing touches it while it compounds. But here's the part that catches people off guard. The deal was never you don't pay tax. The deal was you pay tax later. And later has a way of arriving with conditions you didn't negotiate. By law, you have to convert your RRSP into a RRIF, or a registered retirement income fund, by the end of the year you turn 71. And once it's a RRIF, the government doesn't ask you nicely to withdraw money. It mandates minimum withdrawals every single year, whether you need the income or not, whether the market is up or down that year, whether you'd rather leave that money growing for another decade. Doesn't matter. The minimum withdrawal schedule kicks in, and it only goes up as you age. Now here's where the trap really tightens its grip. Many retirees go into retirement with this assumption: I'll be in a lower tax bracket once I stop working, so I'll pay less tax on these withdrawals than I saved when I contributed. For some people, that's true. For a lot of people, it's not, and the reasons why are rarely explained clearly. Think about what a typical retirement income picture looks like by your mid-70s. You've got CPP. You've got old age security. Maybe you've got a workplace pension. Maybe you've got non-registered investment income. And now, on top of all of that, you've got a mandatory RRIF withdrawal that keeps growing as a percentage of your account balance every year you age. Stack all of that together, and a lot of retirees find themselves sitting in a higher combined tax bracket in their 70s than they ever expected. And it gets worse. Because once your income crosses certain thresholds, old age security starts getting clawed back. That's the OAS recovery tax, and I've watched retirees lose thousands of dollars a year simply because their RF withdrawals push their net income just over that line. Money they were counting on gone, not because they spent carelessly, but because the system was built that way from the start. So let's call this what it actually is. The RRSP isn't a retirement savings account in the way most people picture it. It's a tax timing mechanism, and if you don't actively manage that timing, the government will manage it for you, usually in the way that benefits their revenue, not your retirement. Now, this is exactly where the TFSA becomes one of the most underused tools in the entire Canadian retirement system. Not because it's flashy, not because it has some secret feature nobody talks about, but because of one simple structural fact: money inside a TFSA grows completely tax-free, and withdrawals never count as income. Not for tax purposes, not for OAS clawback purposes, not for anything. That single feature changes the entire retirement equation if you understand how to use it. Here's the strategy that almost nobody does, and I want you to really sit with this. The years between when you retire and when you're forced to start RRIF withdrawals, let's say age 65 to 71, are often the lowest income years of your entire retirement life. Your salary is stopped. Your CPP and OAS might not have started yet, or you've deferred them. This window is, for many retirees, a tax gift that expires. If you strategically withdraw from your RRSP during these lower income years, even though you don't have to yet, and pay tax on that money while you're in a lower bracket, then move that after-tax money into your TFSA, you accomplish something most retirees never even consider. You shrink the size of the RRSP that will eventually become a mandatory RRIF. You reduce your future mandatory withdrawals, and you move that money into an account where it will never trigger tax again and never count against your OAS. I want to be clear. This isn't about avoiding tax. It's about controlling when and how much tax you pay, instead of letting a formula decide it for you when you're 80 years old and have far less flexibility than you do today. There's another piece to this that surprises people every time I explain it. A lot of retirees assume their tax situation gets simpler as they age. It doesn't. It often gets more complicated because now you've got RRIF income, CPP, OAS, maybe a small pension, maybe investment income, all layering on top of each other in the same tax year. Without a plan, all of that income lands in the same bucket, and the bucket gets taxed as ordinary income at your full marginal rate. The TFSA breaks that pattern completely. Need an extra $5,000 one year for a trip, a renovation, a gift to your grandkids? Pull it from your TFSA, and your taxable income for that year doesn't move an inch. No bracket creep, no OAS clawback, no surprise on your tax return next April. Compare that to pulling the same $5,000 from your RRIF. That withdrawal stacks directly on top of everything else you're already receiving that year, and depending on where you land, it could easily get taxed at 30% or more, and potentially trigger clawback on top of that. So when people ask me, should I just stop contributing to my RSP and put everything in my TFSA instead? The honest answer is, it depends on where you are in your career and your income today. If you're in your peak earning years, the RRSP deduction is still incredibly valuable, but the conversation can't stop there. The real planning question isn't just RRSP or TFSA. It's, how do I sequence these two accounts so that I'm not handing the government a bigger tax bill in my 70s than I ever needed to? If there's one thing I want you to walk away from this with, it's this. The RRSP rewards you on the way in, the TFSA protects you on the way out, and the retirees who build real flexibility into their later years are the ones who use both, with a plan, instead of treating their RRSP like a number that just needs to get as big as possible. Because the size of your RRSP isn't what determines your retirement income. What determines it is how much of that money you actually get to keep after the government takes its share on a timeline they control, unless you decide to take some of that control back, starting today.